Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of ETCISO TV. I'm Shipra Malhotra, Executive Editor, Special Initiatives for ETCISO. Today, I have with me Diwakar Dayal, Regional Director, SentinelOne. And in today's episode, we will be discussing what strategies should businesses look at to future-proof their operations in the new normal and the role autonomous security will play in doing that. So, Diwakar, welcome to this show.
Thank you for having me here.
Great. So, Diwakar, to start with, if you look at the threat landscape, it has really evolved rapidly, especially over the last 16 to 18 months in terms of both the volumes of attack as well as the complexity of attack. Especially with the move to work from home and the accelerated cloud adoption. So, in that context, what new challenges have you seen emerging for businesses post COVID?
Sure. Yeah, I think the last 18 months have been tough on most of us or all of us, right? We clearly are increasingly operating in a world of what we call as unknown unknowns, right? The very nature, timing, and the origin of the next ransomware or cyber attack is proving difficult to predict and stop in real time for most businesses. And if you look at the headlines, right, you pretty much won't miss the kind of threats that have been have and the breaches that have occurred the last couple of quarters. Uh, Obviously, we have this ever-expanding attack surface because everybody's going digital, and obviously, the hackers and the community of adversaries have got more and more sophisticated tools. The techniques they've been using have been changing, and obviously, they do a lot more collaboration, the bad boys, compared to, of course, the defenders and the customers. And hence, I guess security now and today needs to be everywhere, right? And that everywhere starts with the endpoint. And as most of us know already, endpoint is also the first and the last link before the humans, right? And that is also the most vulnerable today. Clearly, there is no such thing as an internal network anymore. Endpoint is the new perimeter of the day. It is the new firewall. It is the new data center, all rolled into one. But unfortunately, the defenses that we have today, protecting those endpoints are pretty much antiquated, right? They primarily rely on very age-old techniques like signatures and a very cloud dependent response system, which is not helping the business in really being able to respond in real time. And clearly, ransomwares today are now what we call the clear and present danger, right? And work from home is not going away anywhere, right? Even though we are all vaccinated and will come back to office slowly, as we have seen in certain industries, but majority of the folks who can work from home will continue to do so, and that looks like a business mantra as well. And hence, I think for all businesses, the ability to continue despite these new disruptions, right? Disruption led by COVID, disruption led by ransomwares and security breaches, is the biggest challenge. If I have to kind of summarize that, right? And uh, clearly, there is a imperative need to have a strategy to stop these breaches. And if and when they do occur, which they do most of the time, right? What is the plan to recover from these ransomware attacks in real time to make sure that business can continue as usual? And we are seeing new measurement criteria that businesses are adopting. One of them clearly being the ransomware recovery timeframes, right? So the question is, for any organization, what is your ransomware recovery of time frame, right?
Definitely. So, it is true that we are actually moving towards a hybrid workplace, and as businesses return to the so-called new normal, they are preparing for a strategy which will incorporate both on-site workplace as well as remote workplace, and making it a hybrid environment. So,
Mhm.
in that context, how do you suggest organizations adapt their cybersecurity strategy to future-proof themselves in this new normal? And do you think autonomous cybersecurity is the way forward, and why?
Well, if you ask me, absolutely yes, right? Today we are relooking at, when I say we mean the whole host of organizations out there are relooking at their cyber defense strategy. And there is clearly a need for an artificial intelligence an automated, an autonomous cybersecurity platform as a response, right, to defend against the adversaries. And clearly, for that to happen, it has to be a platform, and the platform has to have the ability to provide what we call the highest efficacy in stopping breaches and protecting you, but also in making sure that you can automate the processes which relate to a typical cybersecurity lifecycle, which is prevent, detect, right, remediate, respond, and recover, right. And this life cycle has to be completely self-run in a way. It has to be have the power that it is intelligent and capable to not just stop real-time attacks, but also be autonomous in the way it functions. And when you do have this platform, it needs to be obviously endorsed by worldwide, standards like MITRE, analysts like Gartner and everybody else who understand that yes, this is something which has been tried and tested, but this also delivers, right, the kind of automation, right, that's required to really have a truly autonomous cybersecurity platform. And one of the things that stands out, I think today, even more than before, is none of us are in the office. So, which basically means that when and if there is a ransomware or a cyber attack on your laptop or your PC or your server, how can you roll back those from the attack automatically, right? And given the nature of unpredictability of these attacks, uh, is it possible really to kind of automate your response in terms of how you roll back from these attacks? This is becoming more and more, what do you say, critical in the way that customers are, organizations are evaluating their cybersecurity defense. And clearly, when you look at the security parlance of what you say, MTTR or time to containment, right? We have a limited time today, and we have a limited people at our disposal. What I think everybody can leverage is the unlimited power of AI and AI-led defense strategy.
So I want to particularly talk about how AI can help
Mhm.
terms of improving visibility as well as control across all the digital assets for improved response and improved response time to threats. Because one
Mhm.
of the biggest challenges and roadblocks that organizations face is lack of seamless visibility across cloud, on-premise, endpoints, etc. So how can AI help in improving that visibility and therefore improve the control?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, right? I think everything that really can be truly transformational in the way we approach this has to have a platform-based or platform-led approach, right? And the platform has to be super intelligent to primarily connect the dots across various computer workload devices, and those range from what we have known traditionally as our personal computers, laptops, and tablets, all the way into the realm of IoT devices on the other side, mobile devices, your iPads as an example, but also moving away from physical to the virtual world, which is in terms of Dockers and containers. So yes, the platform should be able to have ability to kind of connect all of these different workloads in a seamless single view from a console perspective, but also have the same applicability of intelligence in the way it's primarily seeing threats. And customers, and I think most organizations today are demanding this unified prevention, detection, and response in a single purpose built agent that primarily protects them at these devices and uses the power of machine learning and automation, which is again driven by all the power of AI in the backend, which is in the cloud, using next generation of analytics. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of reliance, unfortunately, on legacy signature-based antiviruses in the last couple of years, or maybe technologies which have very heavy dependence on the cloud or cloud-based protection, which primarily increases what we call the dwell time, right? And sitting in class 2, class 3 cities in India at homes where you don't have bandwidth, in real time, every second, every minute makes a difference between a ransomware coming through and not. And hence, there is really a need that your agents, right, that's protecting all these devices out there, they got to be working autonomously, independently, and in real time, not depending on certain signatures in the cloud, not depending on certain old age legacy systems. And if and when, to the point I made earlier, have the ability to kind of roll back from a breach, right? Be able to provide what we call effective remediation. So the workload of the machine or the laptop is being cleaned up in real time and being cleaned up without any human intervention. And this can primarily lead to what we call a perpetual clean state, so that business can continue as normal, right? Because this is the new normal. We are going to work from home. There are going to be ransomware attacks. So how can you then really overcome these, hurdles in real time without involving too much of downtime, right? And continue business. And AI will play AI-driven intelligent agents and analytics in the cloud will play a big role in how this is being delivered.
So, while there is no denying the role, the important role that AI is playing and is going to play, in the cyber defense strategies of organizations, it is in fact becoming an integral part of most of the organizations' cybersecurity tech stack and a key tool in their arsenal against cyber criminals. But at the same time, the fact is that the threat actors and the cyber criminals are also leveraging these same tools, artificial intelligence, machine learning driven tools, to launch more sophisticated attacks without human intervention. And it seems like the businesses are always playing a catch up to the cyber criminals. So do you envisage a time in the future when organizations can get a step ahead of the bad actors, and how? I mean, is that ever going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, right? I've had the privilege to operate in the cybersecurity world for almost 20 plus years now, right? And security has always been about it's like a cat and mouse game, right? It's always about somebody trying to be one step ahead, and most of the time, unfortunately, it has been the adversaries or the bad boys, right? And hence, I guess the evolution from the defense side has been more and more automation. But I think with the true power of real AI led platforms, not a lot of wannabes out there. I know, unfortunately, AI is a word that's being used by every marketing data sheet and catalog simply because you can have 1 or 2% of your platform engineered using some amount of AI, but then nobody's going to check that, and you can claim that your entire platform is AI driven, right? And that kind of throws a lot of wannabes out there. But the real test comes is when you can actually, in real time, without human intervention, without the necessity to go to a cloud delivered, people behind services, be able to learn and predict these threats in real time. And this is not really the capability for this is not really out there, except for very few companies who can really give customers or the businesses the confidence that this can be solved and is being solved successfully with the use of machines and not big teams, right? Because you are going to run out of people and what people can do here. Uh, so that's number one. Clearly, you got to empower the people sitting in the security operation centers and all your security analysts, right, to primarily understand in real time, right, the story and the root cause that they can see in terms of what the threats are being visually played out, and give them the confidence that you can threat hunt with true context without really spending too many hours, right, or days recreating the threat storyline by hand, which has typically been the approach that we've taken, and that's a very human-oriented task, and we were never going to kind of defeat machines in that. So yes, you will have to defend using machines, but it will be augmented by what we call human beings, who have a far more signal, right, in taking those decisions than a lot of noise that typically has been what most security companies have tried to throw up. And I truly believe, having been here for quite some time, that this can be made possible with companies who are really doing this in the next generation cutting edge systems, which can also then need to be integrated with the rest of the ecosystem, right? Not one company, not one partner can deliver all of this together. And hence, it needs to be supported with an open API and an ability to really talk to different systems in the security landscape so that we're not operating in silos.
My last question, which is always, where any investment in any area in the business boils down to, which is ROI, and companies and CISOs especially, they
Mhm.
have limited budgets, which means that they need to be judicious with where and how they spend on their cybersecurity needs. So in your opinion, what should be those top 3 areas or technologies that they should prioritize in their budget for the next 1 year that will give them the maximum business value and impact? And what is your reason for these for suggesting these top 3 technologies?
Of course, right. Clearly, the threat mitigation strategy or the cybersecurity defense, these conversations are no longer siloed, right? They're not happening in some IT department or cybersecurity team department. It's taken all the way, it's gone up in its kind of profile, and it is happening as a matter of boardroom urgencies everywhere, right? Because it is disrupting business, and at the end of the day, business controls these decisions in when it directly disrupts them, right? Hence, I guess CISOs have become far more empowered today, right, compared to a couple of years back or even a decade back, as I've seen them, where they are being held responsible for the cyber defense, but also given enough power to kind of look at each and every technology implementation in the ability to defend, right? And that basically means that they are being scrutinized for every decision they take with a far more, closer lens, if you may say so, to a point where in the past, maybe security for a lot of reasons was more like a compliance related tick mark. People took or adopted or embraced technologies, like sandbox and uh, things like traditional antiviruses, zero trust check, but that's no longer feasible for CISOs, because the next attack can actually not just bring down the organization and the assets, but also sometimes even take the jobs of the CISOs, right? And hence they are today, there's a need for them to take bolder decisions, work with newer age tech of threat mitigations, and ensure that they're deploying cybersecurity tools that kind of provides literally a warranty against ransomware, right? And how many of them are there out there, right? It's not about just uh, showcasing a great platform and then showing up a year later during the renewal of the platform services, but really don't know, what happens through that 1 year, right? And hence, CISOs today are, I think, closely looking at investing in technologies that can help prevent attacks as well as respond to them with some amount of guarantee, and it can be done autonomously, right, across the entire enterprise attack surface. And for that, clearly, the points that they need to upgrade as the priority for the next year clearly starts with updating from a legacy endpoint protection systems, right, to the next generation of endpoint detection response system, or the EDR as we know it. And then, of course, look at a unified visibility and autonomous response using some amount of XDR, right? I think clearly this is where we are seeing the projects being taken up urgently. We as a company are going through tons of evaluation with many of the prospects out there, and clearly the industry is receiving well the messaging that S1 is bringing in terms of autonomous XDR and EDR platform, which I think is kind of showing up as the most relevant in the way we show up against the adversaries with our businesses. So that's what I had on that.
So, in fact, when you said that the cyber incident can actually take a CISO's job, it's not just a CISO. I think we have seen incidents where it cost the CEO the job, because cybersecurity has become a boardroom matter, and one incident can not only impact your revenues but also your brand value and reputation in the market. So thank you so much, Diwakar. I think one message that clearly is that, AI definitely and autonomous is going to be an integral part of cybersecurity. However, there's a lot of noise around AI in the market. Like you said, it is a part of the data sheet for almost all security players in the market. So one important thing for CISOs is to judiciously, analyze the solutions and rise above the noise to find the right fit for their organization. So with that, thank you so much, Diwakar. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me here, Shipra.